Zeus is a god, king of all gods, ruler of Mount Olympus, lord of the sky, master of thunder, father of civilization. He has a palace above the clouds, an eagle, a lightning bolt, and the absolute authority to do whatever he wants. What he wants, almost exclusively, is to cause problems. This is his story. Before Zeus ruled anything, his father Kronos ruled everything. Kronos had received a prophecy that one of his own children would overthrow him, which is the kind of information that ruins a person. His solution was to swallow every child the moment it was born. Kronos was not a complicated man. His wife Rhea had had enough by the time Zeus was born. She handed Kronos a rock wrapped in a blanket. He swallowed it without looking. Zeus was smuggled to Crete, raised by a goat, and grew up entirely aware that his father had eaten his sibling and that this required a response. He came back. He made Kronos vomit up the others. They fought a 10-year war. Zeus won. He became king. After the war, Zeus and his brothers drew lots to divide the universe. Zeus got the sky. Poseidon got the sea. Hades got the underworld. Nobody asked the sisters. Hestia, Demeter, and Hera were not given domains by lottery. They were simply told what they were responsible for.
The first significant relationship Zeus had was with Metis, the Titaness of wisdom and cunning. This was, in hindsight, a significant error on his part, because wisdom and cunning are exactly the qualities most likely to produce a child who could defeat you. A prophecy arrived, informing Zeus that Metis would first bear a daughter and then a son who would surpass his father in power, and decided the solution was to swallow Metis entirely while she was pregnant. He ate his own partner. He absorbed her. Sometime later, he developed a splitting headache so severe that Hephaestus had to crack his skull open with an axe to relieve the pressure. Out of the crack in Zeus's head stepped Athena, fully grown, fully armored, and carrying a spear. Zeus's response to this event was to proceed as though nothing unusual had happened. Metis remained inside him forever, occasionally offering advice from the interior.
Zeus then married Themis, the Titaness of divine law and order. This was considered a sensible match. Themis was patient, principled, and deeply committed to cosmic justice. With her, Zeus had the three Horai, goddesses of the seasons, and the three Moirai, the fates, who controlled the destiny of every living thing, including gods. Themis was the most reasonable person Zeus ever married, which is possibly why the marriage ended. Order and Zeus were not a natural long-term combination. He then had an arrangement with Eurynome, an Oceanid, with whom he fathered the three Graces, Aglaia, Euphrosyne, and Thalia, goddesses of beauty, joy, and festivity. The Graces were among the more straightforwardly pleasant things Zeus produced, which suggests Eurynome's influence was considerable. Zeus then turned his attention to his own sister. Demeter was the goddess of the harvest, the most important agricultural deity in the Greek world, responsible for grain, seasons, and the basic principle of things growing. The relationship produced Persephone. This would later become extraordinarily complicated when Hades, Zeus's other brother, abducted Persephone and took her to the underworld, and Demeter refused to allow anything on Earth to grow until her daughter was returned. Zeus eventually intervened because the alternative was the extinction of all life on the planet, which even he could see was a problem. He negotiated a partial return. Demeter and Zeus did not discuss what had happened between them. After Demeter came Mnemosyne, the Titaness of memory. Zeus visited her for 9 consecutive nights. The result was the 9 Muses, goddesses of history, poetry, music, tragedy, comedy, dance, astronomy, epic poetry, and sacred song. The entire foundation of human creative and intellectual achievement traces directly to 9 nights Zeus spent with the goddess of memory. He moved on immediately afterward. The Muses remained. Leto was a Titaness, gentle and quiet, and her relationship with Zeus produced what are possibly the 2 most significant divine twins in Greek mythology, Apollo and Artemis. The pregnancy was not peaceful. Hera, who was by this point involved with Zeus and deeply unhappy about the existence of other women in his life, banned Leto from giving birth on any solid land. Leto wandered the earth searching for a place to deliver. Most locations declined under Hera's pressure. Eventually, the floating island of Delos agreed to host her. And even then, the birth of Apollo took 9 days because Hera had detained the goddess of childbirth to delay things. Artemis was born first, without difficulty, and then helped her mother deliver Apollo. She had been alive for approximately 2 hours and was already doing the work. Apollo grew up to be the god of the sun, music, and prophecy. Artemis grew up to be the goddess of the hunt. Maia was the eldest of the Pleiades, daughters of the Titan Atlas, who carries the sky on his shoulders. She lived alone on a mountain, specifically to avoid attention. This was unsuccessful. Zeus visited her cave. Their son was Hermes, the messenger of the gods, patron of travelers, thieves,
commerce, and liars, who was born in the morning and by afternoon had stolen Apollo's cattle, invented the lyre, and negotiated his way out of punishment with such charm that Apollo ended up giving him the cattle willingly. Hermes was approximately 1 day old at this point. Maia watched this happen from her cave and said nothing.
Electra was another of the Pleiades, and with Zeus, she had 2 children, Dardanus, who would found the Trojan bloodline, and Iasion, who later made the significant error of lying with Demeter in a plowed field, which Zeus discovered and responded to by unaliving Iasion with a thunderbolt. Zeus used his thunderbolt on a man who had become romantically involved with a woman Zeus himself had previously been involved with. Selene was the goddess of the moon itself, driving her silver chariot across the night sky each evening. Her connection to Zeus in some traditions produced Pandia, a goddess of the full moon, and Ursa, the goddess of dew. Selene is better known for her devotion to the sleeping mortal Endymion, whom she loved so completely that she asked Zeus to grant him eternal sleep so she could visit him each night without the inconvenience of time taking him away. Zeus agreed. The request was unusual. He granted it anyway.
Eris was the goddess of discord, strife, and conflict, and her involvement with Zeus produced various minor spirits of misery and misfortune. What she is more famous for is the incident at the wedding of Thetis and Peleus, where every god was invited except Eris, because inviting the goddess of discord to a wedding is the kind of thing you avoid if you were thinking clearly. Nobody had apparently been thinking clearly. Eris arrived anyway, threw a golden apple inscribed, "For the fairest," into the celebration. 3 goddesses immediately reached for it. Zeus was asked to judge who deserved it. He declined with the specific swiftness of a man who has been married long enough to know when he is looking at a problem he cannot solve. He delegated the decision to a mortal prince named Paris. Paris chose Aphrodite, who promised him Helen of Troy, leading to the Trojan War. Hera requires separate consideration because she was not simply one of Zeus's relationships. She was his wife, his queen, and the person who had to watch every single one of the above situations unfold from the throne beside his. She was the goddess of marriage. She spent her entire divine career watching the god of marriage violations be celebrated for it. Their courtship began with Zeus disguising himself as a wounded cuckoo bird in a rainstorm so that Hera would pick him up and warm him. The moment she did, he revealed himself. She agreed to marry him, possibly because the cuckoo plan was so ridiculous that she respected it. The wedding was the greatest celebration in divine history. They honeymooned for 300 years. Then Zeus started making decisions. Hera's response to every affair was to pursue the other woman rather than confront Zeus directly, which the Greeks presented as jealousy. She turned Io into a cow. She made Callisto into a bear. She arranged the suffering of Heracles with systematic precision. She delayed the birth of Apollo for 9 days. She sent a gadfly to torment Io across multiple continents. None of this solved the underlying situation, and Hera knew it. She kept going anyway. She had a throne, a crown, and an official title, and she had decided those things would mean something even if everything around them suggested otherwise.